We're going to have an amazing final session. We have some of the most important festival people in the world here, and I'm lucky we get to talk to them. So we're going to talk about the future of film festivals and film markets. And, you know, I do want to talk about the future a lot with them because I think we all kind of know what's happened this year. So let's look ahead. Oh, is it Eye of the Tiger starting? Oh. I don't know whether to talk or dance. I think it's a good time to welcome our panel to the stage. So if I can start with them, let's start with Salma Abdallah from Outlook Film Sales, the CEO. Welcome, Salma. Woo. Is this your theme song? Yes, it's good. And then we'll invite Paolo Moretti, who is the artistic director of Cannes Directors Fortnight, the Kanzen. It really is like boxers entering the ring. The music, oh, drama. We'll next invite up Lily Hinston, who's the former artistic director of Locarno Film Festival. Welcome, Lily. And next up, we have the welterweight champion of Berlin, Carlo Chatrian. Please join us, artistic director of Berlin Film Festival, the Berlinale. Wow. Carlo, I think every time you ever go on stage anywhere, you should demand that music. So delighted to have all of you here. It's amazing to have, you know, you major festival directors here, and Salma, a major seller. Like I said, I think we know what's happened. I don't want to go into who did what hybrid and all that detail so much. I want to first just ask you, has this pause, and it has been a pause for international film festivals, has this pause made you think about your festival, your job, a film's life any differently? That's a big idea question. Does anybody, are you thinking about things differently, or why do we go to film festivals? Have you been able to stop and think about that now that we're off the circuit for 6 months? Nobody wants to. Paolo, please.
Yes, of course. I mean, we found ourselves kind of thinking about what to do, because there was a phase where we really didn't know what to do, if we could do something. Kind of to make it short, we end up thinking that I mean, we couldn't do it, but it's so necessary, and it's a pause. We never doubt a second that. I mean, it can be replaced by other thing, and that it's still necessary. And this is not what we think as festival organizer, but the feedback also we had from sales agent, producer, directors. So this is, in a way, encouraging. On the other way, of course, very frustrating for this year because we couldn't do it. But you know, kind of that reinforced the motivation. There was a very dark moment, let's say, after we had to cancel mid-April. But then by the end of April, I mean, we just realized that, I mean, all the feedback we were having after the shock were, okay, let's go, let's start working now for next year, and that's what we did.
Okay, I'm going to come back to next year in a moment. But Carlo, how are you feeling after this sort of pause about why we need film festivals in the world? Do we?
Well, I think that the presence of us and the guests and the public here in Zurich, like in San Sebastian or in Venice, is already the answer. I think, of course, we can stream films, we can find a way to be connected, to keep going talking, but in the end I think that the human presence, sharing something together, is more important, and I think this is, at least to me, this is in the end the answer. We make festival not only to show films, but in order to support them we need also to prove that the festival, at least to me, go along with something that we can call theatrical experience or simply an experience that is a sharing. And for me, that's the main reason why we do festival. We want to have people, filmmakers, sharing one moment in time and hopefully some emotions.
And Lily, what about you? Grab your own mic. How are you just thinking about festivals right now at this moment?
Well, I totally agree. I mean, Venice was extremely significant in that matter because we could feel how much happy people were to meet again, see films together, talk about films, and you really could feel, I mean, for me, film festivals are also very much about spirit and atmosphere, and you can create a certain kind of atmosphere in your own film festival. And I think that's something you bring also to the whole industry, filmmakers, and the whole crew of a team, both sales agents, distributors, film producers, all people that are they're upset and waiting how it's gonna be for their first ever presentation of their work that lasts often for years, and you're there, you know, to create a world, to give birth to it, and nothing can ever replace it. I mean, at least not by being alone in your sofa.
I agree. Salma, you're coming from a slightly different point, but you want to get your films into the world, and how have you been thinking about why you need festivals to do that?
Yeah, we definitely need them. We reflected a lot about this. And, there's this expression, you need a village to raise a child, and you need a festival to release a film. And that's matter of fact. And it's so much more. I mean, we never realized how effective festivals are in our business. All these meetings, you cannot replace them with video conferences and emails. We will definitely travel less than we did before. I mean, this is something we can discuss, of course, also for environmental issues. But the moment of a festival and everything that comes around, and also, we are based in Austria. I mean, if you're not from France or the US or UK, where you have a huge domestic film industry, there is hardly anyone to exchange in a small territory. So we need this moment where we can meet internationally and make it a big industry, and bring distribution and release strategies and discuss new innovative distribution strategies on a certain level. I can't do this with Austrians only. I mean, we have great people in Austria, but not enough.
No, but we are all wanting to connect internationally. I mean, I have to say, again, I still can't quite believe, I'm out of my house, I'm in Zurich, you're all here in person, we're not on Zoom. I just want to say thank you to Rita and Christian, pushing ahead with this festival. And I went to see Nomadland last night at a public screening, and it was, full, safely COVID full. And it didn't feel like I was just at the Odeon. It felt like I was at a festival again. And I realized I hadn't been anywhere since Berlin to see a festival screening, and it just meant a lot to me, and it means a lot to the local audience. So thank you for getting us all here. Thank you. We've seen a lot of hybrid events this year, and by that I mean, the obvious of an online program. Maybe if you're in the country, you could watch something geo-blocked, or you could, maybe you could even try to see something in person if you were there, but it's geo-blocked to that place, but then maybe they have a Zoom conference that's open to people. There have been some silver linings to that. It's that, if you can't afford to go to Cannes, which, let's face it, a lot of people in the world can't afford to go to Cannes, you could buy a badge for 100 euros and watch a lot of Cannes Marché online. Is that the same experience? No, it was not. But it has democratized who can watch some of these films and who can participate in industry talks. And do you think some of that can continue even when the real life experience comes back? Can we still involve people online even once we're meeting in person again?
But do you think it was really democratized? My feeling is that the people who attended the Cannes market online were the one who attended in the past. Maybe in the future, that will really help in getting more people involved. But my feeling is that I'm not against this kind of event, but I don't know if really the result is to, especially when it comes to market, to have more people into the market, because at the same time the company, of course, they need maybe more people, but at the same time in the end they need to sell, and if you have more people but then the possibility to buy it's the same or even less, then that's a question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because,
no, I talked to some sellers, based in the UK, who said it's actually a nightmare, Cannes market, because usually, you can only have so many meeting slots a day, and who's in Cannes. And now maybe there's a sort of low rent buyer in Lithuania or in India who doesn't go to Cannes, but has gotten a badge for Cannes market and expects a meeting with you. So it sort of widened the pool to be unmanageable for meetings. That's just one person I spoke to. But also, I guess, in terms of, I look at what CPH Docs did, and usually, of course, they're only reaching an audience in Copenhagen. Maybe somebody would come in from somewhere else in Denmark for a special film. But they really broaden that audience nationally rather than in the city. And that, I think, they want to keep a hold of. But they could only do that by having some online screening. So, would you be open to some online components? I mean, Fortnite, that's not really what Fortnite would be about, I guess.
No, absolutely not. No, the thing is about online and streaming is that we weren't against the idea. I mean, we are friendly with platform. We are focusing on the work of the director, so we had no constraints. But the constraint came from the people we were talking with. So the rights holder, directors and producer, nobody was considering the online option. So we just had to acknowledge that and say that the film that were supposed to be shown at the Fortnite were not suitable for online platforms or on streaming. And I think in a way makes sense for the nature itself of the Fortnite. I mean, has this kind of very hardcore cinephile, kind of spirit. So this is what happened. We were really open to any kind of possibility, but that's clearly not the first one.
From a rights holder point of view, once you go online, you're basically talking about Esport rights, and this is the big collision we have here. And it works really well with smaller. I mean, in festivals in smaller territories, for example, Lithuania. I mean, we're more than happy that a Lithuanian festival can reach out to their local audience and make the film available on a share basis to 3,000 people in Lithuania, because we usually don't have distribution partners in this territory. So that was a new option and very interesting to us. Of course, if you have a major festival in France releasing the film online with limited views to 500 or to 10,000 people, I mean, this is up to discussion then it competes with distribution interests, and that's tricky. And this is something we're tapping into now. I mean, if you do a festival run in you can have 5 to 10 festivals per territory, because you travel from city to city. If the film is online once at Docs NYC in New York, then it's nationwide. So there's another issue here. I mean, this is all the technical part, but
it's
really
more philosophical too, because it's the last thing you want a festival to do is to hurt a film's chances to eventually get seen by other people as well. And Paolo, obviously there was the Cannes label, which Terry Firmo announced for competition in uncertain regard films. Did you ever consider announcing your full program, or that just didn't make sense for those films?
Once again, we were really open. There was no request from the people we were discussing with and from the film we were we were imagining in our selection, because at the time we stopped, we only had 2 films actually selected and confirmed, and those are the 2 films we announced at some point. So everything else was floating.
Still in play a bit.
Yeah, and there was no kind of will from all these films to be announced earlier. And basically what happened, I guess, that most of the films that had an economy which allowed them to wait, decided to wait. And so we just had to acknowledge that, and that was the vast majority of the film we were considering at the time. And yes, we decided not to announce the list because we didn't have a list to announce in a way. So.
Easy decision. I mean, I've heard through the grapevine, it might just be idle gossip, but, of a few that are holding for 2021. Do you have any in Fortnite that you sort of confirmed already for 2021, or could still have a slot? Or is Carlo trying to steal them? Because I've also heard Berlin is being quite eager with some titles this year.
I would say that until the official press conference, nothing is confirmed.
Okay.
This is kind of the
That's such a can answer right there. Yes. It's very true, though. I know those calls that go out the night before sometimes. So.
But of course, we have the eyes on some films.
Yeah.
We're going to follow the discussion we had, so bring the discussion back from when we left it, and hopefully, I mean, we will manage to build kind of a coherent selection, which was, of course, our goal this year.
Yes. And Carlo, you were the last festival that sort of went on as normal, and it, looking.
This one is normal, no?
This we
was
got masks.
In a way normal.
We have masks. Well done. We've got masks. I guess I'm wondering, do you have any idea what the shape of the 2021 festival could be, or is that everything changes every day? I feel bad even asking you that.
Yeah, I think you already gave the answer, right? Yeah. We don't have any idea about our life in 1 month. Whether I will be able to travel back to Zurich in 1 month, we don't know, or to Italy or to France. We at Berlinale we decided and we announced that we want to have an edition that will happen in theaters. Probably it's different being in Berlin, making a festival in Berlin or in a place where the public comes from outside. I mean, also in Berlin they come from pretty much everywhere, but still we have a big public in town. So we have a kind of a commitment, also desire to share our selection with our public. And the public is already there, so that's why we decided since the beginning that either we will be able to do an edition in theater or probably we won't have any festival because if there is a lockdown and everyone has to stay at home. So that was the easy decision. After that, there are numbers of decisions that are still in discussion because those decisions depends on elements that we cannot control, that change all the time. So for how many people, with how many theaters, with which kind of capacity, which rule, with. But on the other hand, we try to be positive and optimistic. I think, as Lily said, Venice was a big push in that direction. San Sebastian happening, Zurich happening, and hopefully more will happen. I think they give us new hope, and then all the rest, we have to be flexible. It's very hard to say, okay, we're gonna do that. Yeah,
I don't think you can right now. Does it feel like there's a huge amount of great films that might have normally obviously Venice had its world premieres. Toronto was very much slimmed down compared to usual. There might have been 100 world premieres that would have normally that have gone there. London Film Festival is slimmed down. We don't quite know what's going to happen with Sundance yet, or Rotterdam. Are you feeling like there's even more thousands of films piling up that Berlin should show or could show than in a normal year, or you can't even think about it like that? You just pick your favorite films.
I don't have an answer. Honestly, I'm not worried too much about the quantity because the problem usually it's the opposite. So to have the quality rather than the quantity. I think that in the end, you know, Wendy, to me, the question is really what we can do for the films.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget that festivals are part of a chain. So it really depends on how this chain will evolve. If theaters will come back and being a place where people want to go without being afraid, or I think that will give also a big push to the Berlinale. If not, we are willing to maybe have a limited version, but giving us a push to theaters and probably other festivals afterwards. So I'm not very much worried, oh, I will have less film, I will have more film. Again, I try to be flexible and open. As you said, you can see the reality from two totally different angles. One angle is the very optimistic one, we will have much more, and the other one, and we are still in between, honestly, because our selection just started, and so.
Have you confirmed a lot already? Are you inviting
We have
films?
confirmed, I would say, like past year.
Okay, so it's about normal.
Yeah.
Lily, I wanted to ask you, I thought Locarno was so fascinating this year because you came out pretty early in the sort of lockdown situation and said, we're not going to do things like normal, we're going to think up something new, and that became Films After Tomorrow. Can you, for people who don't know, just explain a little bit about the idea behind Films After Tomorrow and why that's how you wanted to support films and filmmakers this year?
Well, that's, and it's connected to a lot of what we already said, like first, how we did rethink our role and mission as festival organizers, as you asked first, and as Carlo just said, a festival is a part of a chain. So when we knew that it would be difficult to organize Locarno because of the Swiss government directives and guidelines, we just try to think what can we do as a film festival, what is our mission, and we try to somehow convert what we were used to do to something new, something else. That made me think the other day of this amazing book by Thomas Kuhn, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, which say how does a new idea, a new scientific idea come to the world. So, and that's because of a change of paradigm. And I think that was the case. I mean, the whole paradigm is changing and you have to think things in different ways. So, well, for those who don't know, but I will be extremely quick about it because it's behind us, and but we just we decided to use the prize money we had for our usual competitions and to give it to productions that were halted because of the COVID crisis. So we had this call for entry and received more than 500 projects, films from, let's say, pre-production to post-production. We limited post-production to like editing in order not to be like a post-production film for the very last finishes, like some mixing or color correction. And yeah, we managed to give money prices from 70,000 Swiss francs to 30,000 Swiss francs to different films. And Lucretia Martel's new film won the biggest prize, and also Miguel Gomez's new film. And that was also for us, I think as film festival organizers, a very interesting insight on film production, which is not what we are used to also as programmers. And I mean, I had a production company a very long time ago, but a lot of my programmers were film critics and did not necessarily know how a film is made and done and how difficult it is. And I think that was also a very interesting moment for my whole committee to have this insight on how a film is made, how difficult it is, and for us also, for the international press, it was also a way to to offer a kind of terrific drawing of what is art house production state nowadays, and it's not very positive.
No, but I think this award helped, and it helped, just like you said, not just the money, but the attention to some of these films to help them, hopefully, on their journeys, we hope. Salma, what's your experience been of online markets, and are buyers using them? Are they just sort of hot air? Are people actually doing deals at online markets?
Good question. I mean, we video conferenced like crazy. It was out of curiosity and fear of missing out, a wild mix, and then at one point we got a little bit tired because it kind of feels flat, you know. There's no spontaneous meetings or From the market side, entering it as a buyer, meeting producers, that worked really well. I mean, we are, as a doc specialist, we have a different setup. We are going to the A festivals as much as to the oldest doc festivals like Docs Barcelona, CPH Docs, and so on. And there were a lot of pitching forums. So this worked really well, and I think also the commissioning editors, financiers were attending and meeting producers. When it comes to the sellers, in my experience, I don't want to speak for all sales agents, only the biggest markets were able to activate everyone at the same time. And that was Cannes, and now MIPCOM is coming up. And again, during MIPCOM, we have like meetings every 20 minutes, as we do there on the ground. So the main, we were selling, we were switching to TV a lot and streamers, of course, but that happened outside the market mainly, like with individual meetings we had. But yeah, it's interesting that we were talking about democratization. Yes and no, because I felt like panels were like attended by a lot of people. That was interesting, so the exchange of transfer of information. But I think, we were all nourishing this industry because we wanted to keep it going, and we were just building up on an existing system. So if we're going hybrid, we need to do it very smartly, because I think the newcomers are kind of left out. Yeah, that's my feeling, because also I'm meeting with the producers I know, mainly buyers I know.
Yeah. You're all people I know up here on this stage. Yeah, I think it's especially hard online to sort of break in and make new contacts, because you can't bump into somebody in a queue for a film or at the bar. It can become closed as well. On the flip side of the democratization, I guess. Sort of related to that. Obviously, this year, the other thing we're all talking about is inclusion and Black Lives Matter and championing underrepresented voices. And I'm wondering how each of you is thinking about, do you have a responsibility as a programmer to include new voices, maybe from outside your own realm of expertise? Or are you thinking about that any differently than we have in years past? Gender equality, race, different backgrounds of people. Do you have a responsibility to have a diverse program?
Of course, but I think that, we, as far as we are concerned, we try to always have it. And of course, this dramatic acceleration and this of the events we saw this year happening, was it increases the sensibility. But I wouldn't say there is a kind of a major change, because the feeling and the attention was always there. And in our case, for example, traditionally, the fortnight is very connected to political and social movements. So, and this is also the spirit that the selection committee is reflecting in terms of views and sensitivities and also backgrounds. So we really, we really try to put this at work, and this kind of multiple looks at the yearly production it was in place in 2019, and of course it's still there.
Lily? Locarno's always done a great job with spotlighting different regions, especially. My goodness, yeah.
I do think we have a huge responsibility from where we are as film festivals director, especially. We have a great responsibility, and that, I mean, it's a work, it's a job to do. It's not like it's not going to come to you by itself. That's for sure. It's like when you go to Cannes, and everybody's white, and it's not normal because I'm saying just because France is not like this, it should all reflect a bit how French society is, and it is not. When I go to Cannes, it's really extremely and shockingly different from when I go out my house and bring my kid to school, and that's not normal. So I think we have to be extremely active, and that in my case, for example, I did a retrospective about Black cinema and tried to offer another history of cinema, something less academic and less already praised by official history, and we did show some masterpieces. There are some unknown masterpieces. That's so exciting. I love this part of the job. You can still discover unknown masterpieces to people. That's amazing. The next retrospective I was about to propose was Kinuyo Tanaka, which is, she's known as great Japanese actress, but she was also a director in a country where there are very, very few female directors, and that's also something. But, you know, it's always a matter of balance, because you don't want to highlight or select anyone because she or he is a girl or black or whatever, because that would be despising, and I wouldn't like. But still, you need to break some, you need to actively break some unwritten rules or things, or yeah.
Oh yeah, we've been hearing a lot. The Criterion collection, I think, has no black directed films in it at the moment. Something like that.
That's shocking.
Don't quote me. Do you Google that before you quote me? But yeah, something bad like that. But yeah, it's about changing what is the canon too. Carlo, how are you thinking about all that?
Berlinale has a long history of being aware and putting in place program, panel, discussion about that. We have an advisor for diversity who works both for the market and for the programming side. I think it's probably it resonates a lot to what Lydie just said. There is also a connection between the place you do the festival and the festival. Berlin is a very multicultural town, and of course, the first feedback of that is the politicality of the festival. So each film becomes political, but also on that level, the presence of different community within the festival in both sides. Because for me, it's important on the side of the programming, but it's also important on the side of the viewer. It's like if we say that cinema is a window that works on both sides, and on that level. What concerns me a lot, I think, as Lily said, it is important always to remind to us first, is that there is a long way to do. There is a long way to do. There is a lot of also re-questioning ourselves, our criteria, our way of thinking about films. On the other level, what really concerned me a lot is another form of diversity, which is less visible, because when we talk about ethnic, when we talk about gender, but when we talk about social or social classes, this is something that also strikes me, and cinema was born as a very popular art. It was super cheap. It's been for the generation of my father and mother was like a very popular, and you go to a cinema and you share that screening with people who come from different classes. Now, probably the notion of social classes is a little bit blurred. Nevertheless, it seems to me that cinema has lost a little bit the the strength, and not cinema, but film festival has lost a little bit that strength, that capacity to talk to different classes. And it's hard to say because luckily enough, you don't notice. It's not something that it's visible. But I think that we should all together do an effort because, again, I'm insisting a lot on the cinema because as we are talking about the future, there are two ways of looking at the future. One is probably you are right, online platforms are much more democratic. But then if I look at the content that are most looked on the platform, then this diversity is not really there. And on the other hand, the only other way we have is to support the cinema and to make them accessible, not only in terms of more money, but really as a place that people that doesn't have the same culture want to go there.
Yeah, that people of all classes and
Exactly.
creeds feel comfortable and welcome at the cinema or at a film festival. Yeah, I think that's really important. And like you said, it's that window, two ways between the audience and the filmmaking. You know, you don't want a bunch of sort of wealthy bankers only watching, Les Miserables. You want people who live in that neighborhood to watch that film in a cinema, don't you? Are there any questions out there? I know it's the end of the day, but surely somebody's got a question, a provocation. No? Okay. I do. We're hearing a lot about going back to normal, and then we hear about, oh, well, no, we're going back to the new normal, and it's kind of all buzzwords. But we do have a moment that we can make changes, and hopefully that some of that, let's end on a positive note, or try to, in a crazy year. What's something that you think could be positive out of this moment, and how film festivals reemerge, might change, might evolve? I mean, just for me, I just am so craving that communal experience of watching films, and not just at the local cinema, but maybe people brought in from different parts of the world, experiencing cinema together, feeling like a real event, not just clicking on something on my sofa, as somebody said. So anybody want to share a sort of hope for what festivals can be again for people, or a way you want them to evolve? Sorry, big question again. Nobody wants it.
Maybe I start
Yes.
now with a small note. I mean, I'm definitely also craving for the excitement at an actual screening. With documentaries, they work 5 to 10 years on a film, and then, having this screening that goes through the roof is just, that's something we definitely need. I mean, what can help is that it's a flexible community and industry, that's good. So I think we very much got used to using more digital tools, and that can be integrated into the back to normal, as a new normal.
Paolo, any ideas for?
Well, I think, maybe the positive things are not film-related, are more kind of environmentally related, because, I think that kind of reducing the travels,
Yes.
so dramatically kind of also made us think that maybe not all the travels we were doing were actually necessary, and that many things could be done otherwise and in a more ecological way. The paradoxical thing is that we were working on it. I mean, we were reflecting at Cannes on, kind of how we can kind of make the ecological chart of the festival evolve, and there was discussion about it, and when we ended up having the most environmental friendly Cannes ever. I
Yes,
think.
it's the lowest carbon emission Cannes that's ever taken place. Congratulations.
0 emissions.
Yes. Lily, how are you thinking about festivals in future?
I think there is something essential about the difference between the internet offer and a physical offer, which is apart from that big screen matter that, okay, we all agree about it, but we still need we still need to think that a lot of us had their own cinephilie made by a small screen, right? Because not everybody grew up in Paris, or where you can see the whole cinema history on the big screen. So small screen has also been a great tool to to bring cinema, and we were able to feel something of John Ford's spirit through a small screen. So that's not only about it, but for me it's more about the discovery and the surprise, because when you go in the internet, you're looking for something specific. When you are in a film festival or even the television, something is being brought to you and you don't know about it, so you can be confronted, you can be faced with something you would never have been faced to, because you wouldn't have chose this. And for me, that's one of the most important questions.
Yeah, you wouldn't curate something yourself necessarily. Isn't that the wonderful thing, that we go see a film that we don't know much about and want to be surprised? Carlo, the hope for film festivals.
This year we started a new section and we called Encounters. That's for me, beside that section, the idea of the encounters, the idea of going somewhere where I will meet something or someone, and to go with someone else, it's really an essential element of the festival. We think about festival as a place for showing films. In my experience, festival were a place where I met other people and I talk with them, and the talk I had with them and the suggestion I got really made and hopefully will make a big difference on my, I wouldn't call cinephilia, because to me the cinema is always a way to understand better where I am, where I will go, where I've been, so to understand better the world we are living in, and of course we are living a great age. I mean, we have a lot of possibility. I remember, because I had some talk with the student during the lockdown, and I tried to put myself in their shoes. I said, oh my God, when I had their age, I had to wait sometimes a year before watching a film. Now it's like, okay, this is the title, I will find. So on the one hand, they have a lot of possibility. On the other hand, probably because also, in the pleasure, sometimes the wait gives more pleasure, or also the time makes you embrace better, or in a different way, a film, whatever. So in that respect, I'm confident that film festival will remain in place, because they offer that part, which is, I guess, essential for anyone. So in that respect, I think a festival won't change much. Of course, as Paolo said, I think we are all learning a lot, travels-wise, or also how to do a selection without traveling, how to increase the connection between people without traveling. I think we have a lot to learn also in respect of the world we are living in. That's true. That's totally true. But on the other hand, I think sometimes it's worth to make the effort, produce a little bit of CO2, but maybe then you change your mind and you help the world to have less, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that. Oh, do I need to really start flying again? Yes, I do, because it means the world to be here right now in person. And I think maybe we'll just all try to be a little more selective of where we're going and what we're going to do when we're there, who we're going to talk to, how we're going to embrace it. If you are going to fly, make it worth it. I want to really thank you all for being here in person. Amazing not to see you on Zoom. We're mentioning connections and encounters, so I wanted to mention that tonight at 9 p.m., there is the Soirée Française, or the French party, as I like to say in American. It's at Frauenbaden. You don't have to go swimming. I don't think the weather's going to be good for swimming, but I think, won't it be lovely to have a beer with each other tonight and continue these encounters and connections. Thank you all for joining us. Rita, you want to come say hello? Christian, say thanks and goodbye. Oh, he left. Okay. Christian's been called elsewhere. I'm not supposed to even hand you my mic. I can hold it for you.
Yeah, let's meet at the Soirée Française. That's all I can say, really. And thank you so much for being with us. And yeah, I mean, it's just bad weather, but it's not this virus that's stopping us from a great soirée.
Okay, we all deserve a soiree. See you later. Thank you so much for being here in person. Well done, Zurich.
Well done, Wendy.